Welcome to being here this evening, because I presume you are all here this evening. Yeah?
Maybe.
Yeah. Because it is interesting that how much time we don't spend here in our lives. We spend a lot of the time worrying about what we did just the other day there, or today, and worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow. So our life is, we're dragging about the past and we're worrying about the future. And I hear people saying things like, you know, at the end of a week, I'm glad that week's over. I wonder how many people have said that before. Or I'm glad I got that over with. You know, presenting to people is something people don't like doing mostly. And I've heard people saying, you know, I'll be alright when I get this over with. And I say, well, what if you're in your deathbed and say, well, can I have all the weeks over with that I didn't want at the time? Or all the days, or all the moments, you know, and to me that's the kind of, you know, I say to people, you know, be here. And it's one of the big things about this evening, and the kind of what that I'm talking about is a lot about being present. It's the same, I think, you know, I hear people saying, you know, how they wake up. I'm quite interested in see how people wake up in the morning. You know, they wake up with an alarm. Yeah, most people wake up with an alarm. And does the alarm go off? Do you press the snooze button and go, oh, no, 10 minutes. You know, some people do that. I don't know whether they've ever done that. And then it goes off again, and oh, another 10 minutes. And then, of course, at the last minute, we have to get up, and then we'll rush out and off we go. I'm not paying much attention to ourselves, not paying much attention probably to what we eat in the morning or how we prepare for the day, and quite often people are waking up, you know, and think, oh God, I could do with another half hour in bed. I must get to my bed early tomorrow. You know, living is about being energetic and lively, and having some real drive inside. Not drive as in people tell me, business people tell me, you know, I'm really driven, and I go, that's strange. I prefer to be driving. Because a lot of people are proud of that. That's one of the things they say, I'm driven. Well, a dreadful thing to be, you know, I'm driven all the time. So I can't make a decision myself. Who's driving me? You know, is there some weird person somewhere that's driving you? So it's about having that internal energy, internal enthusiasm for life that we don't, if we can build and develop. And I'll show you or give you some examples of the kind of work that I've done with people and with myself, I have to say, over the years, that people can, if you want, you can become involved in that kind of work. And some of you will be. Some of you probably go to classes in yoga or Pilates and so on. And that's fantastic. Like anything you do, I think is pretty good. And one of the things that I think, I had lots of little theories about the world. One of the theories is that we become addicted to who we think we are. You know, and that addiction means we have to be who we are all the time. And people say to me, well, that's just not me. Or I can't do that. You know, I could never do that. You know, it's just the way I am. And that's, you know, that's fine. I mean, I don't criticise anybody for anything they say. You know, it's up to how people live their life is their problem. And although I work with people in the change process, I can't really, you know, be responsible for the change. You know, it's bad enough changing myself, and I have the responsibility to change other people. And other people have to do that for themselves. But this addiction is pretty well cemented in most people. And I used to listen on my car when I was driving to cassettes. Did you ever buy these cassettes, these sort of self-learning cassettes? I've got tons if anybody wants some. Because you don't have cassette players in cars anymore. You know, I've got tons of them. And some of them are really good. But listen to, I don't know if any of you have heard of Ramdas. And he was a psychology professor at Harvard that came he got involved in Eastern culture and philosophy and so forth, changed his name to Ramdas. And And I used to listen to this because it was great. I loved the Ramdas tapes. And there was this one, you know how you can listen to something several times but you don't actually hear something, and suddenly you hear something and you think, that's what I want to hear again. And I played it over and over. It was not very good when you're driving, I had to switch it back and forward. But anyway, he said, once you stop thinking you have to be somebody, you can be anybody. And that really stuck with me and still sticks with me. Because we grow up having our somebodyness thrust upon us, unfortunately, and you've probably done, if you're a parent, you've probably done a similar type of thing. And that we create, we're created as somebody. This is how you're supposed to do things. Don't do that now. What people think? Well, you can't go out wearing that, for goodness sake. All these sort of types of things, and it's interesting. I don't know if you've ever read Sophie's World, and it's really a bit about the history of philosophy, and the mythical philosopher Alberto talks about the world that we live in. He says the world is like a huge magical trick, with a magician's hat with this huge rabbit coming out of it, and that we all start at the top of a piece of fur on the rabbit's back, because when we're young, we're kids. Children are just excited about things, aren't they? They want to play, want to do things, and they're flexible. They'll dance, they'll play, they'll jump, and so on, until of course they get taught not to. By the big people. Don't do that. You have to grow up. Take that stupid grin off your face. Get serious. I'm just joking. You sit at the front of a group and you get prepared for a little bit of that. But, that kind of thing. You become, what I've noticed in life, you get these people who are terminally professional. And everything is very much. I don't really need glasses, I just wear them to look more. But the genuine look over the top of the glasses at you. With a very serious face. I can put on a serious face if I need to. I'm trying to say to people, you can put on any face you like. I say to people, look, what I could do. And changes, isn't it? Changes their whole being. Just doing something different. There's been a sort of growing awareness in my life about how people take for granted a lot of the aspects of their life. And I look at people and think, well, I think myself, what a wonderful vehicle we've been given to live our lives with, our bodies, fantastic equipment we've got. And our bodies are working all the time to keep ourselves healthy and in equilibrium and so forth for us. No matter what we do, it is working positively for us. But we don't really, people don't care very much about themselves. As I said, I guarantee you, most of the people, I do a lot of work in London, and you see people, in the morning, walking, they probably got up at last minute, and maybe had a shower or put their clothes on, out, sitting in a tube, and they're walking along the road, drinking their coffee and eating, whatever it is they're eating. I think, how can you respect your whole self by treating yourself in that sort of way? And also, people normally waking up when it's a little bit too late, unfortunately. They've let things go and let things go. And then you go to a doctor in the hope that the doctor's going to heal you, when in fact they can't. So that was one of the things, and I was thinking, I do a daily practice every day. I know it sounds as if, very posh, I do a daily practice in the mornings. I can talk about this, but I don't mean that. It's just something that I do because it makes me feel really good for the day. It gives me energy, and it builds my sense of being present and ready energetically for the day ahead. And I'm lucky that I have a nice place to do it in, and also I don't have any children running about. And I know that, a lot of people I work with, I've got families and so on. So, say, well, how can we get you to a place where you can actually do something that's going to be beneficial to you? So I understand these challenges, although I don't have all of them. So the work that I do in the mornings the main piece of the work is called opening the energy gates. Now, I went to learn this 15 years ago with my teacher, who I still work with, who now lives in France, which is quite nice to pop out there from time to time. But opening energy gates is about understanding how we hold ourselves in many different ways. We've learned unconsciously from probably in the womb, right through in our young childhood and so on, that if under a little bit of stress or pressure, we hold. Now, some of you will recognise where you hold consciously, but there's also other places you won't recognise where you hold. You tighten, and feel, or don't notice that happening. So that stops what we call our chi. That's why things, Chi Gung, Tai Chi, all these words with chi, stops our chi from flowing effectively through our bodies. So energetically, we're not going to be as effective as we could be. And it's internal. It's not just holding externally, parts of the body, because most people are probably aware of sometimes when they get tight up here, or they get tight in the tummy, the bottom, the Alex Ferguson things, the squeezy bum type. Golfers have this, when they're worried about where they're going to hit the ball, the bottom tightens up, the sphincter muscle tightens. And that doesn't help them play golf particularly well. It doesn't help us doing very much particularly well. So that's a reason, and I'm going to sort of aim to give little bits of what the energy gates work is about, so you get an idea of what it's about. But also, I do another set called the 8 Pieces of Brocade. I don't know whether anybody's worked with that. It's this Chi Gung stuff as well. Chi Gung is wonderful because it's, the power of Chi Gung is that, we have a lymph system, but it doesn't have a pump. Obviously, our blood has a pump, it's called the heart, just in case you didn't know that one. But, one of the things about Chi Gung is that it gets all the lymph nodes pumping the lymph around our body. So that in terms of a healthy process, it boosts our immune system, it keeps us healthy, it moves our lymph around, and generally is not just physically but internally very. Remember that this very useful. This is called the gut. You know that? Some people don't like that name, but that's what we call it, the gut. It's where almost all our immune systems, immune cells are created. This is where our immune cells are created, and it has a nervous system all of its own. But you didn't know that either. Independent of the nervous system that comes off the spine. So there's one connection with the brain, which is called the vagus nerve, which goes up into the top, the frontal, and that's why people say you get a gut feeling, that, but whether that's true or not, you'd have to take that on. Most people have had an idea of a gut feeling. Is this right? Or this is not? You maybe are getting it at the moment. You never know. So, one of the things we to develop let our chi flow a little bit, and also to help you understand that you can relax sometimes. You ever wake up in the middle of the night with thoughts in your head and thinking, of course I can't get back to sleep now. Have you ever done that? No? Richard, not that? No. That's the Irish.
Not too many thoughts during the day.
That's crazy. That's the secret of happy life. Stop thinking. Lose your mind and come to your senses, as I say, for goodness sake. It's true, thinking is one of the things that most people spend too much time in our head. That's why stuff like Chi Gung and Tai Chi and so on gets us into our body, so we can actually think more clearly. And some of the guys I work with in business, there's so much in their head. There's nothing from there down. So, nice sitting down without your legs. That's fine. You can put your, cross your legs immediately after you finish this. This is just for a couple of minutes. Just sit comfortably, and I want you to close your eyes for just a minute or two. And I just when I ask you to put your attention into a part of your body, just put your attention and don't try and visualise that part of the body. Just put your try and put your attention into it so that you can just dissolve it a little bit. So put your attention into the crown of your head, right in the top of your head. And just notice that, you know, the skin in the top of your head is dissolving, releasing. And let that releasing and dissolving and relaxing come into the middle of your forehead. Just so it feels almost as if you're being massaged in the middle of the forehead. Down into the temples, softening and relaxing temples. And into your eye sockets. Right into the sockets, not just into the outer surface of the eyes. So your eyes really soften and dissolve. And then into your upper jaw, relaxing, releasing your upper jaw. That's an easy one. And then the lower jaw. So your mouth is just either very slightly open or closed and no more. And put your tongue on the roof of your mouth. And just notice your breathing as you're in that place. Just notice your breath coming in and the breath coming out. Okay, and just relax and open your eyes and come back into the room again. Now that is relevant to the energy gates. It's a very shortened version because we actually work from the top down and we stand. The starting point of the energy gates is a standing meditation or dissolving. So this would be the stance that I would have. And I work from down. I do all those. It's a bit like the meridian points, if some of you know that sort of part of the work. But all through the body, right through, down into the knees, down, and right down into the ground, so that you feel your energy going into the ground. In particular, this part here, just under your navel, is called the dandian, which is really the main energy point. And actually, once you work with your energy in this way, you can actually save energy. You can store it in here, so you can use it when you need it. But that's a kind of advance that doesn't happen tonight, unfortunately. But at least you know that it's possible. So that's standing. When I'm working with my teacher, sometimes we have to stand for over an hour. And in this position, knees slightly bent, right here. Now you say, well, why that? Well, this is called the shoulder nest, and this is an area which you want to soften. You soften here, you can soften right down here into your belly. So you can breathe. You know, have you ever seen people or heard people in parade in the army fainting? Yeah? They faint. It's hot and so on. But they stand like this, with the shoulders back. And you can't breathe like that. You try and breathe properly with the shoulders back. You can only breathe down to about there. So the more we can soften in here, the more we soften down here, the more we soften right down there. Our breath is much more powerful. We can fill our lungs, we can keep enriching our gut where our immune cells are created. I mean, if you're interested in self, as in, you know, a better life, more active life, a healthier life, to live longer, more healthily, then it's a lifetime challenge. It's not an overnight thing. Don't, you know, well, here's a few exercises, you can do that. And exercises are only, you know, a lot of people do Tai Chi and stuff of that nature, and it's fine, you know, it's a physical thing we're after. But when you do it properly, you've got, you know, the physical, then you've got the mental, you've got the emotional, and you've got the spiritual. So it's a complete process. You've got, you know, it has to be an internal process, not an external process. That's why, and one of the things in the energy gates is cloud hands. Has anyone ever done cloud hands? Yeah, and it's, I mean, that movement there is one of the movements. Now that is actually a deflecting movement if you were doing it as a martial art. So if somebody was attacking you, you deflect them in that way. But because it's, you know, you're in the ground, you're present, your energy's down there, and you're moving from here. You know, it's a wonderful feeling. You know, that after I stand in the morning, I do that, get tingling all down my arm, my fingers are tingling with energy. It's just an amazing feeling. And that's what, I suppose, gets me up in the morning to do it. But if I don't do it, I feel a little bit, well, I do it every morning, sometimes not as long as others. And I have done other weird things in my time just to, you know, as part of the process. I've always thought that You know, if my challenge is to help people to change and develop, then I've got to get out there and do something and find out things that are different. If we just go to the limited, what I would say, Western approach to the life and so forth, you don't really learn that much. You know, you can learn what guys from from Africa, from South America, from other parts of the world, from the Far East and so forth. It's just, it opens ourselves up to opportunities. Anyway, ways of working. I read a lot, and I know Bernie's read a lot about Bruce Lipton. If anybody come across Bruce Lipton, brilliant stuff. Cell biologist, and the area of epigenetics, which indicates, that we're not stuck with our genes. We can alter our genes. People, yes, not just the ones we wear, the ones that are inside us. And I'm not a cell biologist, so I'm not going to get into the complexities of it. But the key to altering our genes and keeping a cellular structure, which is vital for ourselves, is the environment we create. And the membrane on the cell responds not just to material signals, but through thought signals. So what we think, you probably know this anyway, but that every time you think, every thought you have is communicated to the 50 trillion cells we have in our body, every single one of them. So better watch what you tell yourself, about yourself particularly. And we have fantastic, you heard of interferon and interleukin, anti-cancer drugs. We create these in our own body. These are stuff that we create only when we're in what I would say, a dynamic or enthusiastic state of mind, a positive state of mind. We don't get it when we're in a depressed state of mind. Just if you ever worked with people who are a bit, you tend to get ill a bit more often. Notice that? Get a bit ill a bit more often. They need attention as well, so that's why they get ill as well. They like that. The gates and presence. Presence is when we get ourselves into our centre and we clear our head. Do you ever meet somebody who is really present? Says, hi, nice to meet you. Great handshake too. Handshake. Yeah, and they're really with you. Yeah? Now, we were talking about a couple of guys I coached at Edinburgh. It was actually three of them, the Richardson brothers. One played for Scotland, one played for Scotland B, and the other was manager of the Scotland team at one point. One was a complete thug, the other one was just a thug, and the other one was just quite physical. But anyway, the father was a lieutenant general Sir Robin Richardson, lived in Haddington actually until he died last November, and he was brilliant. When he spoke to you, you were the only person in the world that really mattered at that point. And he might only speak to you for 2 minutes, but he was really good, absolutely present. Not the kind of, that you get with some people. And that's why you think, that's obviously why one of the reasons he became not as good as he was at his job, particularly something I did think of going into the army when I left school, but I realised people might start firing bullets at me, and I thought, I like the uniforms and stuff like that. It was nice, dress up. So what the energy gate is six points to it. The first one I've shown you is a stand. Oh, stand for that, just going to go to sleep. But it is quite a demanding stand, and it takes time really to get all through the points. But the first point, part of that, is to start the release, the dissolving. Because once you start the dissolving, that moment that you move out and start the cloud hands means you start moving the chi. You can't move the chi if it's stuck all over your body. So you'll get some movement of chi to begin with. But even doing this, I've seen this over the years, people find it, they're actually quite technically difficult movements because of the movement down here. It's all from down here. But most people will do it up here, it's from the waist up. It's like amateur golfers do this kind of thing, professionals do that sort of thing. So we go to cloud hands. This is wonderful. Bruce Francis has written a book about the energy gates, and who is a world authority on all of this stuff. Spent years in Japan and China as a lineage holder. A lineage holder is somebody who's had the knowledge of the thousands of years passed on to him. And he says, if you want to do one thing in your life that is health-giving, cloud hands, do cloud hands every day. He says you'll live a long and happy life. You'll have a golden old age instead of a rusty one. So that's the energy gates. But I mean, the energy gates is about understanding how to release. If you do waking up in the middle of the night and you find it difficult to get back to sleep, you'll find that if you're thinking that this part of our body, our forehead and temples, have some tension in them, it might just be a little tension. But when you release that and allow that to drop down, you can drop down to your breathing, and before you know it, you'll be back to sleep again. And I think it's cumulative. I mean, I'm just the same as everyone else over the years. I've woken up in the middle of the night, and you know, things are running through my head. Should I do this? Should I do that? Blah blah blah. But now, I think it's probably because I've been doing this for so long. It's just like a river runs through me at that point. You know, waking up and I go, oh right, I'm awake. And that's it. And it's the same, you know, everybody thinks. You can't stop thinking. And people who think, you know, meditate for stopping thinking is, you know, not on the right track. It's just that we attach to thoughts sometimes, rather than letting them go. We don't need to attach to the thoughts we have, but often we do. You know, and I said, we don't, particularly people who are frightened to stand up in front of other people. They keep attaching fear to that. So every time they think about it, they get frightened. It's a way you've got to start reversing that. It's a wonderful story. I thought it's always good to finish on a story that is a powerful story. And it's based around the fact, I think, I would relate it to the fact that, you know, that our heart has an electromagnetic field that goes out to about 8 or 10 feet away from us. So you can actually, people can actually feel your heart. So if your heart is full of love or good intentions, people will feel that. And particularly if you're coaching or working with people, then if your heart is not sending out these messages, people are going to pick them up unconsciously. So thanks very much for inviting me. Thanks very much for coming here. And all the best. Go well. Thank you.